Falcons. Punches back. Touchdown.
Welcome one. Welcome all. We have a beautiful weekend ahead of us. A Sunday night that will be actually quite a bit of fun later on. And we also have a Sunday morning game. So make sure if you're like just waking up on Sundays, like to do your fantasy teams then. Well, if you have any of the Panthers and Giants players, well, unless it's Malik Neighbors, you're probably drawing dead anyway. But make sure they're in your lineup, depending on whatever home league you play in. For DFS purposes, though, we'll have full content for the showdown slate for both DraftKings and FanDuel. And it should be a good time as usual. I am joined by SNYDER. How are you doing today, SNYDER? How's everything been? I know Thursday was great for you and bad for me.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad of a day there. Looking forward to this Sunday. We actually have a nice little 10-gamer this week, different than like the 13 gamers we've been having. The pricing looks a little tighter too, so I think it's gonna be a fun slate to kind of. You're going to have to get a little uncomfortable in some situations, I think.
Yes, very much so. And yes, we also have Drew here. And Drew, I'm kind of excited looking at some of this Sabre stuff here. I mean, look, usually we have a bunch of chalk that like I'm kind of like a little bit shaky on. But this week, I want to count this right now just because it is a little bit more condensed. We have like 10 guys projected for 20% or more. Like that's not just shaky, but like it just shows you how nutted some of these plays are.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to ask my exposures on those guys because right now it's overweight on everybody, it seems like. But we'll go through it. It should be a fun slate.
Yeah, it's like I was looking at some of these guys too. Where it's like I can't really find any real red flags. Like I think you can make a case, and just to kind of let people know as of right now, the Bears defense is predicted to be the most chalky piece, honestly, on DraftKings, right? Because they're going against the Patriots. Drake May, a rookie quarterback. The Bears defense hasn't been that bad. It's actually been pretty good this season for the most part. But then you have guys like Josh Downs, Alvin Kamara, Khalil Shakir, Aaron Jones, A.D. Mitchell, Jonathan Taylor, and then like Swift. So lots to talk about here. We're going to waste no time. We'll go ahead and dive right in here. 10-game slate, like SNYDER said a little bit ago. We have the Steelers and Commanders taking it away first. And I have to tell you this, all right? We get a nice total. Get Jaden Daniels, and as someone who hated on Russ, every second last season and every bit to start the year and thinking Justin Fields was the guy, I have to admit I was wrong. Russell Wilson has looked really good through a couple games here for the Steelers. Gets a favorable matchup here. SNYDER, when I look at this game, right, Brian Robinson going to miss out in this one. Austin Eckler is the highest projected owned guy, but he's also the only projected player in this game, projected for double-digit ownership, I should say. What's your take on this one here? And do you like the Steelers side as much as I do with the way Russell Wilson's been balling?
Yeah, it kind of seems like Pittsburgh's like the sharper side when you look at this game from a matchup standpoint. You got Tomlin off the bye. You got Tomlin against a rookie quarterback. There's a lot of trends and stuff back in the Steelers in this situation. Totals are right around 44.5, which is kind of low for like a Washington Jalen Daniels type game, but have not really sold too much on anything on this game yet. I know like a Pickens could see some ownership. Noah Brown's kind of one of those value guys. People are going to, I think, kind of try and jam in there a little bit. He's off back-to-back double-digit performances, 4,300. McLaurin's kind of priced up. It's tough to get some of these expensive receivers on this slate. And then you look at the running backs. I can't play Najee. I know he's done good the last 3 weeks. I played him against the Raiders a couple of weeks ago. He did fine there, but I just don't know if I can play him against. I think Washington's rush defense has actually been kind of improving a little bit. I just look for this to kind of be like a slow, kind of just a tough game. Pittsburgh's going to kind of drag them into the waters, I think, defensively, and I don't know. I just don't see myself with too big of a conviction on anything in this game as a whole. So I think it's just going to be kind of need to see where you guys are at on this game. Maybe you can talk me into some stuff, but I'm really not sold on anything in this game.
All right, perfect opportunity for Drew here to bring you in on some of these pieces. I'm going to make a case real quick for George Pickens. Since Russell Wilson took over, I think it was like Le'Veon Bell who said, watch out for Pickens. He's going to start to cook a little bit. 2 games, where he's done really well. I mean, 4 for 74 isn't the greatest in the world, but what you want usually wide receiver ones produce against Washington. Also, our guy Kurt, Kurt loves fantasy football, loves talking about the Commanders. But he said it's his this season's been more of a run funnel than a pass funnel. So maybe you can make the case for Najee or Pickens and Russell Wilson kind of included in that mix. And also, Drew, I want your take on Eckler because right now he's projecting for real high ownership against a very tough defense, and I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I'll back you with Pickens. So, like, just looking through, it's a decent total. What's interesting, though, is, like, the receiving props are pretty bad across the board except for George Pickens, who's at 75 yards. McLaurin, who we've talked about quite a bit on this show this year, he's under 60. So from a receiving perspective, it doesn't look like it's going to be done in the air with any of these receivers. The running backs are the difference, though. We got 72 yards, I think, for Najee Harris and 51 yards for Eckler. So, I mean, unless Eckler gets a TD or two, I would probably be underweight at that ownership. I will say Najee Harris is probably my favorite running back play out of this game. But, like, I think the total is a little bit misleading. I mean, yeah, they could put up 45 points, but where's the points going to come from? I would take Pickens, and I don't mind stacking with Russell Wilson, but this doesn't seem like a game that I think, big onslaughts of, a QB with two receivers or one receiver, one running back is going to do it. So I think just pick your spots. I think Pittsburgh side's more interesting with Pickens and Russell Wilson, and Najee Harris is a nice add as well. I think Washington is kind of a stay away. Like, unless you want to play Eckler chalk, which I'm leaning towards fading that. I'm not sure Washington has enough upside with the way they spread it out so far.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Drew. I think you kind of broke it down the same exact way. Like, look, it's a 10-game slate, so overstacking is a little bit better than usual. Like, we're usually like, you only need one guy. I feel like that's been the consensus here. Like, you'll need to have, three guys, with a quarterback, two receivers, usually on these like larger slates that has like 12, 13 games. But as it gets a little more condensed, 10 games stuff, that's more viable. But yeah, I'm with you. I wouldn't do that with either side of the ball because, look, you look at Washington, they're usually very successful, but it's usually low volume, that gets them there. It's like Terry McLaurin will have 6 targets, 2 touchdowns, right? That's been kind of the vibe over the recent weeks. And really, when you're not getting that volume there, it's tough for multiple guys to get there. And look, my take on Eckler, this is a very tough defense. He started off very hot last game, and really, he didn't crush all that much. And you have to just think, Jeremy McNichols is going to get involved. Chris Rodriguez is going to get involved. It's not just Austin Eckler's the bell cow. He is getting the majority of the carries, but it's not like he's just individually himself getting 70, 75% of the work when those guys are always going to mix in. So very much, like you said, Snyder, you said the sharp side's on the Steelers. Hopefully me joining on doesn't dull that blade. But I do like Pickens and Russell Wilson and Najee Harris. I prefer Najee straight up over Eckler, like you said, Drew. All right, guys. Vikings, Jags now. This is an interesting game because, should be noted, Trevor Lawrence out. It's going to be Mac Jones. Mac Jones in the new spots. Is that what a Jaguar has? A Jaguar's got some spots, not stripes. But he'll be quarterbacking the Jaguars here. He'll be going against the Vikings, who have been a pass funnel all season. I think when the showdown slate against the Colts, I think I noted that the Vikings were top 3 against the run and one of the worst pass defenses in the league in terms of yards allowed. Right, so I'm not factoring in touchdowns or anything like that, just pure yards allowed. Brian Thomas was a bit of a ghost last week. He's also questionable for this one, but I mean, I imagine since he went last week, he'll give it a go here. Parker Washington was one of the leading receivers for them last game, as well as Evan Ingram. For the Viking side of the ball, Aaron Jones is projected for a pretty high chalk, 27% owned right now. Cam Akers honestly looked a little bit better than him last game, but still prefer Aaron Jones, obviously long term. And then Justin Jefferson, Sam Darnold and stuff. Drew, what are you doing with this one here?
Yeah, Minnesota's the easy play here. It's a pretty straightforward stack, honestly. It's Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones. I will say there's a little bit of weather, not a huge deal. There's some other games with worse weather, but it looks like Jacksonville will have some rain and a little bit of wind. But my main point here is just going to be Minnesota. I think it's super straightforward. I don't want to really mess with too many of the like third and fourth pieces. I'll probably have a little bit of Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson, but man, I'm going to stack up Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson, and Aaron Jones. Darnold, honestly, the upside is all captured with Justin Jefferson at the price. So we've talked about this in the past is, some of these wide receivers that get priced up, what does the QB have to do? And it's much more difficult when it's like a Patrick Mahomes price. This 6,200 it makes it pretty feasible. So yeah, I'm going to lean into the Minnesota side against Jacksonville. I don't think I'm going to have any Jacksonville pieces, to be honest. We'll do the wait and see approach. 150 lineups. I might do that. But out of 50 lineups, I don't think I need to venture down the Jacksonville path, especially with the weather against Minnesota. Easy way, Minnesota, stack it up.
All right, I like it. Snyder, what's your take here on the Jacksonville side as well? Because I played Parker Washington last week. He did do better than Jalen Coker. Didn't do great, though, only 7.1. But it's another thing, too. Like, when a backup quarterback comes in, Doug Peterson is still employed. There's not a whole lot going for this team.
Yeah, I played some Parker Washington with you as well there off of your tip there. It wasn't terrible. I mean, 7 points or whatever. That's fine for what he's like low 3Ks. This is like a smash spot for Aaron Jones. Good matchup here. I do worry about him being potentially 30 to 40% in some of these contests. So I think I'm going to be off for lower on Aaron Jones. He's only top 20 DK points twice this year. Had 20 carries last week against the Colts. Just got 12 points, 11 points against the Rams the week before, 6 points against the Jets. There is some downside to him, which I'm going to hope comes there. I know he's going to see some work in the passing game, too. He had 4 catches last week. And the Vikings really don't want to give the ball to Ty Chandler much. They don't trust him at all, it seems like. They did give Cam Akers 6 carries last week. He played 19 snaps, I believe. Yeah, 6 for 46. So he averaged 7 yards a carry there. So he looked fine, a little bit better than he had been. So hopefully they kind of work him in a little bit too. Because I'm going to be under on Aaron Jones, if not fading, even though this is the great spot, like I said. But I really like getting Justin Jefferson at probably under 10%. You get max leverage off of Aaron Jones there. Justin Jefferson under 9K. I mean, this is a smash spot for him as well. He's been over 20 points in all but one of his last 8 games, I think. So I really like the Justin Jefferson leverage off Aaron Jones and him being under 10% in a spot where he could put up 30 points in this game, I think, rather easily. So I'm going to be overweight on Jefferson. It's going to be tougher to fit him in with the pricing and such we have this week, but I'm under on Jones, over on Jefferson.
Yeah, I like it. And it was funny, too. Like Richie Smalls mentions that he hasn't hit 30 yet this season, which feels amazing just to kind of witness. Because then you have a 90-yard touchdown in that span, and he's had huge games where he's already had like 120 yards just after halftime, like last week. That is a very fun fact because I would have thought he's hit 30 a couple of times. You see a guy like Jamar Chase puts up 62. I mean, like, it's incredible, like, baseball-wise. I'm like sitting there, I'm like, hey, Justin Jefferson's the nutted pick, right? He hasn't gotten hurt. He's been very good and stuff. And he hasn't even hit 30. It's just wild to me. You guys summed it up perfectly, though. I'm kind of a little under on Jones as well, Snyder. I just think that the way Akers looked scared me, and I don't think 2 weeks ago it was a complete monopoly. He got every touch out of that backfield. Last week was not the case. It was Cam Akers who ended up taking a handful of carries away. And it just – look, he's a good play. Don't get me wrong, but it scares me just a tad. And they do want to keep him fresh long term. And as long as they keep winning, they're going to have opportunities to kind of rest him for some more important games. Though every game's important and stuff, but it did spell a little bit of loss of faith in me. All right, Broncos, Chiefs, Snyder. I'm going to start with you. Kelsey has looked amazing the last 2 weeks with just coming off. I don't even know the word for it. Right, he gets Hopkins to come in. Kelsey looks slow, but it looks like I said, I thought he was always playing himself into shape. Well, he looks like he's in shape now. What was it, 13 catches last week en route to a major game? DeAndre Hopkins looked amazing as well. The knee-jerk reaction on him is he's mega chalk, 5,300, his 3rd game in the red and white. I'm very indifferent on Hopkins. I'm glad that he cooked. He looked great last week too, but I'd rather hear what you guys got to say about him. Kareem Hunt, chalk him up for 20 carries. I mean, that's just the reality of Kareem Hunt here. Patrick Mahomes is also creeping up a little bit in ownership. I know Broncos defense looked pretty weak last time out against the Ravens, but man, they're not getting much respect here at all with the ownership. And then on the Broncos side of the ball, no one really chalk here at all. Snyder, what are you doing with this one?
Yeah, I'm just looking at this game. The totals dropped and spreads dropped as well. Kansas City's only favored by 7.5 now. They were up to like 9 in some spots. The total was in the mid-40s there for a while. Kind of interesting. It doesn't look like there's any weather in this game either. It's going to be nice and sunny, clear, 60 degrees there. So that's kind of interesting there. Denver does have a pretty good defense. It didn't look like that, I guess, against the Ravens when they played them. But I think this game is one of those division games that Kansas City's just been playing. It's kind of been slower than normal. I know a lot of people are going to go to DeAndre Hopkins off that big game last week, 8 for 86 and 2 touchdowns. Everything kind of seemed to go his way in that game. Only played 51 of 85 snaps, so they're still trying to ramp him up to get him out there 100%. If he's going to be like super chalk, like I think he's going to be 25-30% owned in some of these contests. I have a hard time clicking his name. I need to see if Patrick Surtain's back for Denver, but I think this is one of those spots where I'm going to lean on probably the Kansas City run game. I mean, Kareem Hunt just continues to score touchdowns every single game. 4 straight games with a touchdown for Kareem Hunt, 20-plus points in 3 of his last 4 games. I'm going to lean into some Kareem Hunt at 6,600. I think he's a good leverage play off of Aaron Jones that we had last week, or on the last game we talked about. Kareem Hunt's probably going to be somewhere around 10, maybe creeping 15% ownership, at least half the ownership of Aaron Jones. And I don't mind the spot for him as well. And as a home favorite of more than 7 points, so I kind of like Kareem Hunt in this game. I'll probably play Hopkins. I'm sure he'll be like in the cash lineup if I play cash this week. But Travis Kelce there too at 6K. That's a good price tag for him. Double the last 2 games. He's 10-plus catches in the last 2 games, over 100 yards last week. He's only found the end zone once this year. I think there's some positive TD regression coming to him his way as well. Back-to-back 25-point games without getting in the end zone.
Yeah, no, it's incredible to see because, look, I was very high on Kelce coming into the year. I thought the injury held him back last year, but you can clearly see that football wasn't exactly his number one priority coming in, right? Like, look, when you're dating one of the world's most famous people and you already have it, like, how many Super Bowls has he got now? Like, look, I don't blame him for kind of almost like the Shaq treatment of, like, coming into a season, playing your way into shape, and then ultimately dominating. And Drew, when I look at Kelce, and I've been a big proponent of like either punt tight end or, go up for him, right? Like I've liked Bowers quite a bit this season when we've had him. And I've also liked just punting with a guy like Gesicki who, is listed as a tight end on DraftKings, but is everything but. And Drew, when I look at this slate, we have a ton of value. Like we're going to get into the Colts here in a second too. Like Michael Pittman being out with Flacco's the quarterback. Like you're going to have a chance to play like A.D. Mitchell or even like an Alec Pierce, right? Like you're going to have opportunities to play 3K guys, and that's going to open the door up for, hey, I have, 6K for a tight end easily. And that's why Kelce's kind of soaking up some of this ownership. What's your take on him here? And are you buying the fact that he's back to his old form?
It seems that way.
Yeah, it does seem that.
I mean, we waited long enough. It's been a drastic change the last.
It's only November.
Only November, yeah. Get some prime. They're probably winning a Super Bowl now. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably leaning into the cheaper tight ends, but I mean, Kelce, when he's on these runs, he's treated like a wide receiver one. I mean, Hopkins is there, and he's cheap. I have no issues with Hopkins, but yeah, Kelce, he takes up a tight end spot at 6K. He's not a tight end upside. Like the dude goes off for 25 or 30 points. He's already beat the threshold for who are we talking about? Jefferson thing in Chase. Justin Jefferson already twice this year. So the total is really interesting. I'm surprised these guys are actually low owned as they currently are. We'll see how that shakes out. The things for me, and I assume you guys are kind of seeing the same stuff in SaberSim, is I'm getting a good bit of one-offs with Kelce and Hopkins and not a lot of stacks. And I feel like the stacks with Mahomes, who still has like a 250-yard passing prop and like almost a 2-touchdown prop, passing TD prop, I think stacking these guys up is probably the way to go. I think if you take them in a vacuum, Hopkins is much higher owned than he's been, obviously. But if you take the stack as far as Mahomes, Kelce, and Hopkins with a 26-point total, I think that's the winning recipe, if I'm being completely honest, because I'm already getting fed a bunch of one-offs. I might as well just kind of lean into it a bit. Kareem Hunt's really interesting. I probably would play him alone. I wouldn't be pairing him up with any of those receivers. He has a fantastic rushing prop at 83 yards. So, I think anybody on this Kansas City offense is fantastic. I think just being strategic on how you want to pair them up. If you want to lean into the Mahomes stacks, I think that's the way I'm going to go about it. But any of those guys by themselves is totally fine. And like I said, Hopkins is so cheap. If he maintains any of that workload, 2 TDs is probably not going to be sustainable, but like the workload with 1 TD at 5,300 is pretty good. And then I'll be pretty short on the Denver side. There's a couple of cheap pieces that pop up, but I don't think I'm going to buy into any of them, to be completely honest. I think it's somewhat of a trap. They're not going to be crazy chalk, so it's not like it's going to eat you too bad. But I don't think I'm going to play any Veal or Vele, whatever you want to say what his name is. You guys can help me out there. And then
I think it's
Vele.
Vele.
There we go. You don't even know. See that?
No correction. No correction.
Thank you. Someone in the chat will do it. They'll have to do the whole accents or something. But yeah, I just don't think the Denver side is worth really wasting too much time or wasting too many entries on anyways. But
yeah, why attack the Chiefs defense when you got 19 other teams to play, right? Like
exactly. There's not enough low ownership to make that work on a 10-game slate.
Sutton's 10%. I like Sutton last week. I bet his prop against the Ravens is
Dude, I had a lot of Bo Nix stacks, and it's just this week just isn't it.
Yeah, I'm not clicking little Jordan Humphrey or Devon Vele or Cortland Sutton. And like Sutton's 5,600. It's kind of paying a premium on just in terms of volume because Denver can kind of get a little bit scarce. I know Bo Nix has looked a lot better than I thought he would coming into the league. And honestly, like I'm actually becoming more of a fan of this offense. We know how Sean Payton can be with his wide receivers, and if you're not playing Sutton, if you're not playing even Javonte Williams with Audric Estime supposed to get a larger workload, like it's really Cortland Sutton or Bo Nix or bust at this point, right? Like, I'm not playing Javonte with Audric Estime expected to just expand his role. That could mean that Jaleel McLaughlin also gets a little bit less work too. I don't know. And I don't care to not, if someone beats me finding out against the Chiefs, fair play to them. I'm not going to go that route. What I like what you said there about DeAndre Hopkins, 5,300 is cheap. It's rare to hear a double stack from you, and so like that, I think people should take note. You don't like to double stack all that much in very large field tournaments because the numbers say it's not really that necessary. You can get Mahomes and his 2 best weapons for what is that under 18K, 17.9. My math, I think my math is right there. And it's also should be noted only 3 quarterbacks are 7K or more. They're all 7.5 or higher. So Mahomes at 6,600, though. He's not been incredible for fantasy at all this season. He did have his best game last time out with 24 fantasy points. It's still cheaper than normal. So I don't fault anyone for going that route there at all.
I'll say one more thing. Scary in the chat says Broncos D at 2,400. I think the Broncos D is viable here. We've seen Mahomes throw nine or 10 interceptions this year.
Yeah.
So I think that Broncos defense at 2,400, the line's moving their direction. The total's coming down. I think the Broncos defense is interesting for tournaments.
And that would be good leverage too, because these Chiefs are going to soak up it's easy to say, one team's going to soak up, but like their players going to have like 80% ownership combined. Like you just look at it, Hopkins is going to be 20, Kelsey's going to be 25, Kareem's going to be 20, Mahomes going to be 10. Like it's decent enough leverage. You also mentioned Mac Jones. This one was interesting too, 4,400. It feels like quarterbacks are already cheap on this slate, and I don't need to do it with Mac Jones because look, the Minnesota passing defense is not great. I actually might go to the props on Mac Jones rather than playing him in fantasy because when I look at this team, who am I going to stack him up with, right? Brian Thomas would be the only guy that I really feel comfortable with on Mac Jones, and I might do that. Problem is I'm not really needing it as things stand, but we could see a little bit differently, down the road. We're going to go to the Buffalo Bills and Indianapolis Colts. The big news here is that Michael Pittman will be missing out on this one. Amari Cooper is questionable as well after missing out last week. And I think that's it. Keon Coleman also out for this one too after dropping a touchdown and turning it into an interception for Josh Allen last time out. The ownership on this one is interesting because, look, Josh Downs has been incredible this season with Joe Flacco as the quarterback. He looked really good last week too. I mean, it took him a little bit to get going. I think he had 27 first half yards and then ended up having 33 in the second half or just 33 in the fourth quarter alone. I like Josh Downs' game. Problem is, he is one of probably the most chalky receiver on the slate today, and I doesn't feel very comfortable with that when you have for lack of a better word, I mean, Joe Flacco's a backup quarterback. I know Pittman's out, but Pittman's volume hasn't really been affecting anyone because, honestly, his fantasy production has sucked. A.D. Mitchell at 3,400 is a very big unknown. There's a lot of question marks that are kind of flowing here for me, Drew. Then on the Bills side, you get Khalil Shakir with Keon Coleman missing out. His role is just very much solidified. It's him or Dalton Kincaid. Even Amari Cooper, if he's active, I don't really think is going to affect his role much. But really, it's an uncomfortable Bills side outside of really Shakir for me. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I was going to defer any of the Buffalo takes to you guys because I've been all season, even with these good. I mean, they've had a 25-point total in most games, and I haven't been playing much of any of them, and I don't feel like I've been burned quite yet. Maybe I'm just playing with fire. It's coming at some point, but I just don't know where you would go. I mean, even in those games where they still get to their team total, I mean, they're not really. None of them are really busting out for 25 points plus. So I'm probably going to lean into the Indianapolis side a little bit, and it's probably just going to be one-offs. I know Josh Downs is going to be super popular, but I think he's worth keeping in your pool. Just be underweight. That's probably where I'll be. Not a full fade. Jonathan Taylor, I do like, but at 7,500, I think I have preferences elsewhere, and that's really it. I feel like this is such a good total, and I'm not going to have much exposure, so it kind of feels bad. But I'll defer to you guys on the Buffalo side. I just don't know where you would go. And honestly, nobody, again, it was a little bit of scoreboard watching, but like every single game they've had these type of totals, and not even a single guy has busted out for anything. So I think James Cook might have had one game. So I'm not really interested overall in this game, to be completely honest.
See, it's interesting too, because like on the Colts side, so much of this ownership is just really just sitting there, right? Like, look, we got
a lot, yeah.
35, 27, 26. I think the AD Mitchell one will be corrected in the morning, though. I think that's going to be a little bit lower. And the best time to run this, so Kevin, like the best time to run Saber is 90 minutes before lock when everything, all the inactives come out, all the projections are updated, all the ownership is adjusted as well. So right now, though, if you just ran a set of 20 teams and you just did ROI without adjusting anything, using the Run Pure Sports projections right now, I get even with the field on Mahomes, which is 10%, just for what it's worth. SNYDER, are you kind of different here, or do you like these Colts plays? I love AD Mitchell's talent. I think he's an incredible talent. However, we haven't seen it in action this year. Is the ownership is it a knee-jerk reaction as of this moment, or do you think he comes in even double-digit owned?
I think if AD Mitchell comes in at like 20% owned, he might be the worst play of the whole year. I mean, the dude's playing like 5 to 10 snaps a game. He's running the wrong routes. I mean, the coaches are irritated with him. He's a heck of a talent. Like you were saying, he's got all the talent in the world, but the dude is running wrong routes. I mean, he's just doing everything wrong as a football player. So I'm going to be off him for sure. I really do like the Colts, though, in this spot. I bet the Colts +4 earlier in this week. Put it in the Discord. It's just a really good spot for the Colts, a really good buy low spot on the Colts. Then you got the Bills coming off of a big win against Miami last week, basically clinched the division there. They got the Chiefs on deck next week at home. Just a horrible sandwich spot for the Bills here. And the Colts, you buying them low here. So I'm really high. I like Josh Downs at 6,200. I think he's a great play, so I'll be playing him still. But I do really like Jonathan Taylor in this spot. I think he's going to be 7th or 8th highest owned running back. There's going to be 6-7 guys owned above him, I think, on this slate. 7,500. This Bills defense, rush defense, more specifically, has been gashed by the running backs this year. I think 4 games they've given up 30-plus points to the RB position this year. Last week they got cooked. Who did they play? I'm going to pull it up here. Yeah, the Dolphins played them last week and put 43 points from the RB position on them last week. The Ravens put up 60. The Dolphins put up 30 again. The Cardinals put up 32. The Texans put up 27 on them as a position. So I'm high on.
Derrick Henry and Justice Hill combined for 60 against the Bills. That is incredible.
That's pretty wild. But yeah, I'm really high on the Colts in this game. I think they're going to win this game outright. I like Johnny Taylor and Downs the best, and I don't even mind. I will definitely have the Colts defense in my player pool. I mean, they got cooked last week, and they still scored 16 as a defense. So they're getting sacks. They got 4 sacks last week, 2 interceptions. They're getting after the quarterback, ball hawking on defense. Josh Allen likes to make some mistakes as well. So I'm really high on Johnny Taylor and the Colts defense, and then Josh Downs as well.
I like it. It's interesting too because I look at Alec Pierce. I know he's 4,900, which is far different than 3,400. But These targets, I don't know with AD Mitchell. And I haven't really checked other ownership really outside of Saber. I could see AD Mitchell, being 10% owned. I don't think 26 is exactly correct, but we'll have to check in tomorrow morning when all this
a lot
stuff.
of the cash lineups just because salary is so tight and he's like the pump play everyone's going to run to.
See, that's because I have him in this team right now, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, man, you know what? That is kind of stupid. If I played a guy who, look, I love the talent individually. He's one of the best ones I thought out of Texas, and he's going to be a great receiver in this draft. That hasn't been the case yet. But yeah, very much a wait and see on him. I like what you said there. Jonathan Taylor, that's interesting. I did not know. I mean, obviously, I played the showdown slate, but I closed my laptop after Henry ran for 90 yards on the first run. But I didn't see how the rest of the game went. Justice Hill and Derrick Henry combining for 60, and all the other teams that you mentioned as a good sell point for Jonathan Taylor here. Let's go ahead and move on to a dome game. Chris Olave put on IR as well, so he'll miss the next 4 games. That leaves the Saints down without their best 2 wide receivers, with Rashid Shaheed and Olave both gone for extended period of time. Shaheed out for the year as well. This leads to a very chalky Kamara spot, 20% owned. Looked really good last week. I thought they didn't use him enough. That's probably because I had him in my fantasy lineup. But there's just ultimately this offense sucks. Derek Carr, not great, but it is the Falcons defense. It is a dome. It's a great total. Bijan and Kamara are the only guys who are protected for double-digit ownership. And look, I don't know. I feel kind of comfortable with this game because look how beat up the Saints secondary is. And, Bryce Young looked like an actual NFL QB last week, which is hard to do if you're an opposing defense. I don't know. I'm trying to talk myself here on Falcon stack, Snyder. What do you think?
Yeah, this is another spot where I'm kind of I think I'm going to be against the public here. I think this is a good buy low spot for the Saints. I know Kamara is going to be chalky, but I do like the Saints in this spot. I'll be eating the Kamara chalk. Just looking right now, 84% of the bets are on the Falcons, so they're definitely going to be the chalk spot. I think the Saints at home, they're kind of a live dog here, but I like both of these running backs in this game. I think Bijan Robinson, 7,700, and then Kamara at 8,100. I'm going to try and get shares of both of them in there. Kamara got 30 last week, and he didn't even get into the end zone, I don't think. No, he didn't. He had 6 catches and then ran for 155. I think they're going to continue to feed the ball through him. All the offense, majority is going to go through Kamara. So I'm high on him. And then it looks like Drake London's going to play. He's kind of nicked up or whatever, but it looks like he's going to go 6,700. Darnell Mooney's price tag is coming up. I was playing him a lot more when he was in the high 4Ks, low 5Ks. Now he's up into that 6K range after he caught another touchdown last week. Back-to-back weeks of touchdowns for him. I'm kind of high on this Saints team this week, though. I've been selling the Saints all season, but I think this is just a good buy low spot. You got Taysom Hill at 4K as well. I played him last week, got 16. I think we see Taysom Hill without Noah Olave in there. I think they're going to lean on Kamara and Taysom Hill a lot in this game again. And then I do like Bijan Robinson on the other side, 7,700. A lot of the offense is going to flow through him, I think, still going forward. So I'll be on Bijan, who scored 20-plus points in 4 straight games. Now, after he didn't even do anything the whole last year, now he's racking up those 20-point DK games.
It's funny, my friend and I were going through, the first round of best ball and stuff. It's who are the best plays? And it's just one of those sneaky plays where you're like, man, Bijan might be the 3rd best pick in the first round for best ball this year. And he hasn't really done anything special. It's just he's been healthy. He's provided a floor, and he's got upside in the future. And it is quietly just doing his thing over the last 4 weeks. And that's with Algier doing really well himself. So the Falcons are making room for both running backs deep, but also this receiving game. I got to give props to you, too, on Mooney last week, who went absolutely off. You preferred him over London. I know London got hurt and stuff, but Mooney also was very effective and had a big play before that as well. Drew, we also got a quick question on Tipton. Tipton is probably going to be the leading receiver for the Saints here, which – he's 4,500, so it's not like he's super cheap, but you're going to get volume you would at least expect. You also have Juwan Johnson, who I want you to talk about at 3,300. And then, obviously, a hat tip to Big T, Taysom Hill, who scored last week. What are your takes there, Drew? Yeah,
I think I'm getting a lot of Taysom Hill already. it's going to be between him and Juwan Johnson. I'll probably lean into Taysom Hill, to be completely honest. Some goal line carries or some goal line TDs. It's interesting. I'm more on the Atlanta side, but I'll quickly talk through the New Orleans side. It's just a matter of like where, I don't think I'm going to be stacking it up. If there's some cheap plays that pop up, I might go there. I think honestly the easy plug is Kamara. If they're going to rely on anybody, it'll be him. Atlanta's going to be the other side, and I'll talk about that really quick. Sorry if you can hear some background noise of kids yelling. But yeah, I think the thing that stood out the most to me for Atlanta is I thought this would be a super easy way to stack up a nice total for Atlanta, who's been going off. Mooney's been doing great. He has a slight bump up in price, but he's been getting like 6, 7, 8, 9 targets a game. Bijan Robinson's been doing good. Drake London, we've been targeting. And then Kirk Cousins is basically priced like a Patrick Mahomes. So I think I'm actually going to go one-offs in this game for both sides. I thought I was originally going to be stacking it up. New Orleans, I won't be for obvious reasons. But Atlanta, I've been stacking them up a lot this year. And I think it's going to be one-offs. It's going to be Bijan Robinson and some. I'll probably lean Kamara as a preference if you guys had to pick between one. But yeah, I think between like Darnell Mooney and Drake London, like those are the 2 wide receivers that I would be plugging in. And I just don't think I can be stacking with Cousins when there's some other QBs that are much better priced this week.
Yep, I'm with you there. And I just got to say this too. Like SNYDER, I'm going to be a part of that Falcons chalk because I look at the Saints team and I've lost so much hope. And then Marshawn Lattimore also got dealt. I should note that too. Like further depleting this team. The Commanders got Marshawn Lattimore. This Saints team, and this is I'm just going to provide an argument here. They could be the worst team in the NFL as things
terrible.
And look, the first 2 weeks, it was like, man, look at these damn Saints. They're blowing teams out. They had 94 points or whatever through 2 weeks and stuff, and things were great. 47 and 40, 91 points against the Cowboys and Panthers. Well, then you find out who the Cowboys and Panthers actually are. When you unmask those teams, they're not great. But over the last 6 weeks, you have a loss to the Panthers there last week, which I didn't think the Panthers stood a chance. The Saints ultimately proved me wrong. Double-digit loss to the Chargers, to the Broncos, to the Bucks, to the Chiefs. 4 straight weeks, double-digit losses, but even before the Panthers lost. They also lost to the Falcons and Eagles in that time frame as well. They have not had a win since week 2. I think I'm just – I know I'm talking myself
Close your eyes and hit the Saints plus 3.5.
God, no! I'm not thinking that. I really do think the great thing they got going for them, division game at home. I understand that, but man, they might be a special breed of bad, and I want to get in on it early, and that's why I'm very much on these Falcons. I think that it would not shock me if the Falcons put up 35 against this team tomorrow. Yeah. You let Bryce Young put up 23. Newsflash: this team's 10 times better than the Panthers.
Dead cat bounce though with a new coach.
You know what? I forget. Dennis Allen. I should have mentioned that too. Dennis Allen got canned. So yes, there is one thing moving in the Saints' favor because I did not like Dennis Allen. So yeah, that's my thing. I will be heavy on the Falcons, but if I did play a Saint, it would probably be one of the tight ends, and obviously Kamara because that volume is great. You know what you're getting out of the pass game as well. Trail script, winning script. My only fear would be him getting scripted out through a blowout, which I do think is entirely possible. 49ers at the Tampa Bay Bucks. Tampa Bay Bucks last week. They were the showdown slate against the Chiefs, and I played Raheem Jarrett on showdown, and he did not do great. None of the receivers did, actually. Ryan Miller caught a touchdown late on to end the game or, to force the game to overtime, and they somehow, for some reason, did not go for 2, which was inexplicable. Then on the 49ers side of the ball, we get Christian McCaffrey back. He is 8K, likely to be slightly limited, I would assume. We haven't really gotten exact word on what McCaffrey's workload will be. I'm going to go ahead and check the Coach Speak index on that. Drew, when I looked at this game, nothing really popped out. I mean, you can use maybe the case for George Kittle as leverage over these, over a guy like Travis Kelce. I guess a pivot off Travis Kelce, 10 times lower owned, 2% compared to 20%. Purdy's 6,500. This is a very good environment for a quarterback, and that's just on the San Francisco side. Then on the Tampa side, can you make the case that Cade Otton could be the best tight end for the rest of the season? Because without Evans and Godwin right now, he's been very effective. What do you think, Drew?
I think with those 2 key pieces out, it's very possible that they lean on him quite heavily. I think it was last week in the showdown slate, he was $100 cheaper than Kelsey. Is that what it was? It's like no one's ever been close to Kelsey in the last 4 years or 5 years, and we got K. Dotton out of nowhere. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, a fantastic total. San Francisco, both sides have really interesting dynamics that you kind of got to wade through a bit. San Francisco, I kind of want to stack it up. I think you're getting a discount on ownership based on the injuries. You got Deebo Samuel, you compare with Purdy and George Kittle. It's not terribly expensive. Like you're basically trading off paying an $8K price tag for a wide receiver one somewhere and stacking up 3 pretty strong volume pieces out of this game. Christian McCaffrey throws a kink into it. So like, I think he's supposed to be a full go from what I read. I don't know. Sometimes you don't know how long these guys have actually been good, and they just kind of start weighting them into some workload. But they're not coming in like crippled. They're just like, for a star guy like that, they're definitely taking their time a bit. So I think you're getting a discount on ownership based on those injury tags, and I kind of want to lean into it with a 30-point team total almost. Tampa Bay is a little bit different. Like these guys can't just step in, even though the volume's good. Like Sterling Shepard still got decent volume last game, but like they're not going to be stepping into a Mike Evans and Chris Godwin type of role. They're not those guys. So I kind of leaned into stacking up Baker Mayfield, and I think I'm going to go away from it and play K. Dotton. I don't think he's as high owned as he should be, assuming he keeps that workload up. So that's kind of where I stand. There's plenty of cheap pieces if you want to do one-offs. I don't hate that. But as far as like stacking up the Tampa Bay side, it could be a complete dud from all these cheap wide receivers, and I just don't want to kind of overexpose, I guess, on the stacks. You could argue it the other way too, is you just kind of lean into it. But I think K. Dotton's a no-brainer, and like I said, I struggle to see a path where any of the multiple of these guys, fill the role of Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. So I'm leaning the San Francisco side for obvious reasons, but one awesome Tampa Bay plus K. Dotton is totally fine.
Yeah, I like it. Snyder, I got some coach speak on McCaffrey too. You kind of made the point there, Drew, where it's like you expect there shouldn't be a limit on Christian McCaffrey is what it sounds like. And here to kind of further solidify that, we'll see how it goes with Christian. You don't just sit there and split everything up just to do it. You keep the people out there to give you the best chance to win on each snap. That's basically the most glowing endorsement of Christian McCaffrey. We're gonna play him a whole lot until like that cap goes, or he gives us the best chance to win. He is 8K, and he won't be that high owned. What's your take on that, Snyder?
Yeah, I think he's gonna be under 15%, maybe even closer to 10%. And we're gonna get a spot to get a guy with the highest ceiling in the NFL at that ownership at a good price tag. I think this is the spot where the Niners, they're finally fully healthy. I think they're going to roll Tampa Bay here. I look for a big game out of San Francisco here. They're 4-4, but they're only like a half a game out of their division lead. I think this is the spot where the 49ers turn it on the back hill side of the schedule here with McCaffrey back. They got Deebo back, Kittle's back. They're full steam ahead now, aside from Ayuk. But I think this is a spot where the spread's going up too. All the sharp money seems to be coming in on the 49ers as well. So I'm going to be heavy on San Francisco here. I like McCaffrey. I'm going to be overweight on him. Probably makes my core in my main team, I think, this week. Definitely has the chance to put up a 40 spot in this game, I think. Even though Tampa Bay has kind of been a tough run defense with Vita Vea there, but McCaffrey is so versatile, and they're going to move him around and use him in the passing game and such. So I really like McCaffrey, probably my favorite play on the slate. And then I don't think I'm going to get to Otten. I get to play 5,500. Yeah, Kittle at 5,800. They're both probably going to be relatively close in ownership. But the one thing that San Francisco has done well from a defensive standpoint this year, I mean, they've been gashed by running backs, receivers. They've actually been pretty good against tight ends this year. Fred Warner has been really good against tight ends. So I think I'll probably be off of K. Dotton in this matchup. I just think San Francisco's going to roll through them here. I know that Tampa Bay has lost their last 3 games, but they've all been competent. I think this is the one that kind of gets away from them here. So I really like San Francisco. McCaffrey, you can play the Purdy stacks with Kittle if you want. Debo's right there as well. And I don't mind playing some San Francisco defense, but potentially here at 3,300 as well. depending if I don't get any of those 2K defenses, I might just try and stay down there like I usually do. But really like McCaffrey in this spot.
I like it. I'm kind of joining in on that with you guys. I like what you guys said about him. I also think I like Brock Purdy a lot. If I'm going to be playing McCaffrey, I think Purdy's a really good play with him. We talked about how Tampa Bay is they're decent against the run, right? Like with Vita Vea in there, they're elite against the run. You don't really want to run up the middle. It took Kareem Hunt, basically 2.5 quarters to even get going last time out, and then got the 100-yard bonus at overtime. But it was very much a throwing effort, a passing effort from Mahomes. And you saw his best game of the season, right? And this is the trend with Tampa Bay. They're very weak through the pass. I could see myself doing some double stacks here with like a Purdy, McCaffrey, and then you could do like a Kittle over Kelsey, like I mentioned, but you could also throw in Debo as under 7K. I don't know. I feel like there's a chance to at least be entertained by a San Francisco stack. Jalen McMillan is still questionable, so keep an eye on him. That would impact Sterling Shepard, who actually looked really good in that fourth quarter. I thought he was clearly the best receiver for the Bucs last game. But also you could have some tournament darts with I think Raheem Jarrett, I'm still going to buy on. It didn't really do all that great last time out. What is his price? 3,600. Yeah, I could talk myself in on that.
I kind of like some Ricky Pearsall too. I didn't mention him, but I think his snaps are going to keep going up as well. 4 catches last week. I think he's fine for the low 4Ks.
And it should be mentioned, Jawan Jennings back, right? But at the same time, Ricky Pearsall, like Jawan Jennings is a great blocker, and he's a great receiver too. I'm not even going to diss him because he was incredible in the Super Bowl and stuff. But Ricky Pearsall really flashed in that first half last time out. I think was it against the Cowboys we had? Or he just looked good. And I like seeing that from rookies. If you just look good, the ball's going to find you in a Kyle Shanahan offense. All right, so this is your bathroom break game. It's the Patriots and Bears. This one, the Bears are chalk. DeAndre Swift is chalk. Hunter Henry is chalk. And then so is Pop Douglas, Demario Douglas, 12%. All 4 of those guys are projecting for double-digit ownership. Bears and Swift, Bears defense and Swift are projecting for around 30%, which is very high. It kind of goes to what I was saying, though, Snyder. When I had, when you just look at the way the Bears split up this backfield touches and like through first 7-8 weeks, it was like, okay, Swift gets the majority of the touches. Roschon's clear goal line back. But over the last 2-3 weeks, it just feels like Swift is the absolute bell cow, and Roschon's even lucky to get 1-2 carries. And that sucks because I'm Roschon's number 1 fan this year. I want him to get as many carries as possible, and Swift gets fed week in and week out. He's only 6,500. It's a great spot. Is he good chalk or bad chalk? What do you think?
Yeah, my top 3 running backs on the slate this week is CMC that we talked about, Johnny Taylor, and then Swift. I think this is the nut spot for Swift here against this Patriots defense, who's given up some monster games to running backs this year to the position right there. Last week they gave up 23, 19, 36, 45, 23, 26, 28 of their last 7 games. So that's a pretty good matchup there for Swift, who's at home as a touchdown favorite. So I think Swift is my 3rd favorite RB on the slate here. He's going to get 15+ touches again from the backfield and probably see 4 or 5 catches too as well. Like he's been seeing last week, he had 6 catches. I think the volume is very stable for him, and it's a really good matchup for him as well. So I like Swift in this game, and that's about it. I played Roma Dunze some last week. Maybe I'll throw him in the pool again at 5,200. I just like the upside, the talent that he has. He hasn't really broke out yet, but last week he looked really good. His snaps was a snap high in the last 6 games. Caught 5 for 104, so he's close, I think.
Yeah, I like it. Any other takes on this game here, or do you just want to go ahead and just kind of shorten it up?
Yeah, we can shorten it up. The totals dropped 4.5 points, so I would just play defense and then short pass catchers like Hunter Henry. The chalk's there for a reason, to be honest, so just monitor that. We can go on.
So I'm just going to make one quick mention. Ramondre Stevenson, 6,400. If you want to just talk about a direct leverage play off Swift, right? Is it leverage? Pivot off Swift, right? Look, there's a chance that the Bears maybe just suck. Ramondre Stevenson and this Patriots offense has not been the worst since Drake May took over. there's definitely a world where I see Ramondre being like a decent play at 6,400 and very low ownership compared
Well,
to.
they're going to have rain and some wind, so like
Yeah.
they might just use him a bit more than they would otherwise. I think that's also why Hunter Henry, he's been a volume cow, but I think just those short dump offs and then Ramondre Stevenson make a lot of sense, even though they're a 17-point team total.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's go ahead and move on to a game that I actually really like here. And the reason why I like it is because it's my Chargers. I love the Chargers. They're once the Bengals get knocked out of playoff contention, I'll probably root for the Chargers. It really is. Like Justin Herbert, and I've said this, I think Justin Herbert's the top 5 quarterback in the NFL, and I'm very glad over the last 3 weeks he's just balling out. And I'm very glad that at least through the first half of games, Greg Roman is just like, yeah, you can ball out. And then he tries to run the ball twice and then into the back of the line of scrimmage and stuff. The offensive line for the Chargers has not even been that great, and Justin Herbert is doing this. He is throwing for 370 yards with Jalen Reagor as his top guy. Like, it is crazy. Will Dissly as his tight end. Ladd McConkey is also coming into his zone. All right, Quentin Johnston has been incredible. And when I look at this Chargers team, right, we haven't really had a chance to watch them just get into a track meet, and I think we will next week when they play the Bengals on Sunday Night Football. But we haven't had a chance to just see this team just go out and have to keep up with the other team. Usually most of their games are double-digit wins or, they're tight games where they kind of lose, like the Chiefs game, for example. But, Snyder, I still want to buy in on these guys. And, Drew, I want to buy in on these guys. I'll lead with you, Drew, here. Like, I'm going to be buying in on Herbert at 5,200. What is that price? Like,
I think that's the biggest selling point is the price, to be honest. I mean, McConkey is still pretty cheap for the volume he's been getting. Dissly's, I'm kind of indifferent on him. He's a nice filler at 3,100, but I think McConkey with Herbert make a ton of sense. I'm getting a little bit of Quentin Johnston as well, but yeah, I think the biggest selling point for these stacks, it's a decent team total, is Herbert's been going off and he's only 5,200. So I just don't know how you avoid that. I can't imagine that. I mean, the ownership could be right. There's enough QBs to go around, but I guess, 5,200 for almost 10% ownership, is pretty strong. So that's probably where I would go. I was doing a little bit of digging on Dobbins. I've been playing quite a bit of him. He did play well last week with 2 TDs. So I might fill him in there on a few teams without Herbert. But other than that, man, I honestly don't think I'm going to play too much Tennessee. We've been talking about them the last couple of weeks after Ridley's big game. It just doesn't – there's nothing that I can really grasp onto that feels like that's going to continue. So you could probably have a run back with Ridley if you really want to go there. He's just expensive for not a lot of upside, in my opinion, in this type of spot. A 15-point team total. He's almost 6K. I don't know why you would go there, to be completely honest. So yeah, for me, it's the Chargers, and there's really no cheap guys either that I really want to target from the Tennessee side. I think it's going to be an onslaught, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm with you, and it should be noted Tyjae Spears probably back into the mix. It sounds like he'll be a good go, which kind of hurts Pollard, right? I could make a case for Pollard if he was still getting that volume, but with Spears back, it's going to be kind of more back to this 50-50 split, which I still think it's going to lean Pollard. I would actually say 65-35 for the most part, but it still cuts into his production, right? Calvin Ridley, same thing. I'm not buying on him here, even though the Chargers secondary is not the greatest in the world. It's just a really gross team. And Chico Okonkwo, same way. Josh Wiley's number 1 tight end there. There's nothing on the Tennessee side. Snyder, I actually played Herbert last week, and I was a little bit indifferent on him last week. It felt on the show, at least. I was like, man, I don't know. And I ended up clicking his name. And the biggest thing was he's too cheap. And this week is the same story now. He is too cheap. The Chargers offense is clicking right now. And honestly, they've been underperforming points-wise. I think they could have put up 35 plus 3 straight weeks, and really, they've only done that 1 week, right? I don't know. I just think the Chargers are underperforming, and they get a healthy team total, and the prices are still too cheap. Is this good chalk to you too?
I think this is a really good spot for the Chargers as a whole. I think they're going to roll in this spot. Good home matchup here as a touchdown plus favorite here, 7.5 in some spots. Herbert's quietly throwing for almost averaging just under 300 yards over the last 3 weeks as well. So he's quietly been putting some yardage up. I'm not sure what to think of Quentin Johnston yet. I still think he kind of sucks, but he was in the right spot at the right time last week to catch that 66-yard touchdown. But I'm not completely sold on it. I do like Ladd McConkey. I think Ladd McConkey's going to be a stud. So I think he would be the guy I would look to pair him up with there. He's been more with the volume there. He's been targeting more with the volume. So I think he's fine. But I have a hard time. I may even just play Herbert naked at 5,200 just because I'm not really sold too much on stacking him up with someone. But the price tag for him is great. If you can get some positive TD variance to go his way there. So that's about the only thing that's holding him back from putting up those 25-point games and such. I think, he's been so consistent as a passer, too, I think he's completing like 75% of his passes every game, too. So just been elite as a passer. I think right at 70% or close to that. But, J.K. Dobbins at 7,200. I think I just like some others a little better, but it's a great game script for him, though, with being at home as a touchdown favorite against a pretty weak team. So, yeah, I'm not really sold too much on any of these guys, but I think I may try and build a Herbert team for sure, though.
Yeah, and ultimately you said it, right? Like he's averaging just under 300 yards per game over the last 3 weeks. And last week, I don't know for a fact, I think he had 32 yards passing in the second quarter, or in the second half. I mean. Like this offense randomly will nuke for a half and then just die. And that's been the theme for this Chargers team. And like I've overstacked this team in best ball to hell. So every time they do well, like my weeks go up. And the last 3 weeks have been really good. But I'm like, man, they can't even put a full game together. They'll have a good chance next week against Cincinnati when they have to keep up maybe with the pace. But you're exactly right. Quentin Johnson was a guy I kept drafting in the end. I'm always shocked because it's nothing like he's like, oh man, he's just pure skill. He's wide open. It's like, man, he had a 66-yard touchdown. No one got near him on this play. He also had a huge play at the end of the half last week, first half. And it was one of those plays where the Chargers just threw it short and he ran like 35 yards or whatever. So I kind of padded his stats to allow him to get the bonus just for what it's worth. But yeah, ultimately buying in on these Chargers, I could see myself easily doing Herbert, McConkey, and hell, I don't know if I would go Palmer or Johnston in that sense, King of Smack, because double stacking the Chargers is just tough because he does spread it around. Like it wouldn't shock anyone if Disley went 8 for 80. I mean, because he's done that before. So yeah, it'll be interesting, but I'm selling completely on the Tennessee Titans and I'm buying all the Chargers stock that I can, especially for the rest of the season too. The defense, though, on the other hand, at 3,800, is a little bit steep for me, which would probably be the only player I'm not really buying, especially the Chargers defense, because I am spending it out at defense this week. SNYDER, Jets and Cardinals. This is a tough game for me because like I don't really know what to expect of this Jets defense. They've been very, I don't want to say like fake good, but they have not been the elite defense that I've come to know. And ultimately, I just have my doubts against this defense. I also have my doubts for a guy like Kyler Murray. Black Ops 6 came out 2 weeks ago. I mean, I haven't really noticed it with Kyler Murray. Maybe he's actually put the controller down. But really, you just got to look at the advanced stats. When Black Ops or when Call of Duty comes out, he struggles. Last week against the Bears, only 154 yards passing. I mean, does that concern you at all, SNYDER?
Yeah, I mean, you got to weigh that in your models, I think, for sure. Well, I think this could be a fun game. I think we could see some back and forth in this game. It's got a decent total of 46.5, close spread, right around 1 point. So I think Breece Hall is going to be popular again. I don't think I'm going to get back to him. I don't think he's going to kill me here, just because I think they're going to still get Braylon Allen somewhat involved in this game. They keep giving him snaps and touches each game, so kind of tough there. I like the other guys better than Breece Hall. So if he like nukes and beats me, he beats me, I guess. I'd rather play McCaffrey for $400 more though, and some of these other guys. But I think Aaron Rodgers is interesting in this spot. He's got a cheap price tag too. You can play him with Devontae or Garrett Wilson. Devontae finally had a 20-plus point DK game in his last matchup. And then Garrett Wilson's still seeing all the volume there, though. I mean, he's still getting 9, 8, 10 targets. So Rodgers is still going to Wilson, even with DA on the field with him. So they're both priced right at $7K. Rodgers is right there at 5,700. Typically haven't been a Rodgers guy, but I don't think I can talk myself into it, actually. I think it might just be like a one-off Garrett Wilson or DA, but I think this is a kind of a sneaky, good, fun game. Connor's been really consistent as well. I'm just not sure how to really attack it. But if I'm playing the afternoon slate, I'll definitely have some pieces of this game for sure.
Yeah, no, I like it. And ultimately it's about like which pieces, right? Garrett Wilson has not seen a production drop really at all, right? Like he looked really good last time out too. And I think these are the two teams, Drew, that I get the most wrong. Like I have not gotten either of these teams right this season. And really I'm just gonna defer to you. What do you think? Do you agree with SNYDER for the most part here? Like Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and guys like that?
Yeah, the way I would read it is you look at the production Wilson's had, even with DA coming back or coming over, and then Devontae Adams is still at 7K. I think that's all of the evidence that you need to be pretty confident in a Rodgers stack with those two. That's kind of the way I look at it. So, like, Garrett Wilson's going to get 8, 9, 10 targets, and so is Devontae Adams. And one of those guys might get 12 to 15. You're probably going to get 1 to 2 TDs. It's a decent team total. Rodgers will sling it. The only caveat is if Breece Hall, vulture some TDs at the goal line, and he doesn't get any type of like 30 or 25 yard touchdown. So like to me, I think this is an easy way to stack it up. Rodgers is still pretty inexpensive. You have one cheap wide receiver, one expensive wide receiver 2, and one cheap wide receiver 1. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. So, and which one's which? I don't know. So I'm just gonna stack up both with Rodgers and hope they both go off for 25 points, and then Rodgers is right there with them. So I think that makes it easy. Arizona, I'm with you though. I haven't got that right. James Conner, I get burned every other week. I don't play him. Trey McBride's the same thing. So I do like Trey McBride quite a bit. At 5,700 for a tight end spot, he's going to be in the player pool for sure. James Conner, I think he's cheap enough that he would get sucked into some lineups, and I don't know if I want that this week. So at 17 to 20% ownership, I'm probably going to lean away from that. He hasn't really hit many ceilings over 20 points. So, yeah, for me, it's Trey McBride on Arizona. I think that's a fairly safe play. And then New York Jets, I just think it just makes it obvious. If you're going to play Wilson or Adams, they're both getting plenty of workload. You stack them with Rodgers. That's the funnel. It's going to those two. It's just a matter of the game script leads to Breece Hall, screwing you either way.
Yeah, I love that path where, you just automatically are just going to get screwed no matter what. This is a very interesting thing. So I really like this sheet that our guy Statsational does on the Run Pure Sports website, and it's stack probability. And what he does is he basically goes over what the probability that a two-man stack, a quarterback and a wide receiver, hit 60. The number one stack this week is Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson at 8%. You also have a couple here. But who are 5th and 6th in this model? Well, it's Aaron Rodgers with Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers with Devontae Adams. So double stacking them would be an interesting idea. And I do think that they're kind of cheap enough to where that might be viable. So I think 7,207K, fully just trying to, find that 35-point team total, like the Jets would get like 5 touchdowns in a game where those guys go off. I'm interested in that, Drew, because I don't think it's not viable because – hey, look, I don't want to compare this offense to the Miami Dolphins of last year. That would be just a sin to do. But, who was getting the ball in that offense. I mean, you obviously have the running backs who can score, but Waddle and Hill were going to get all the volume in the receiving game. That's basically what it is for Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. And you can argue that they're 1K too cheap, both of them. I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Our last game of the slate, it is the Dak Prescott-less Cowboys, who with Dak Prescott going on IR, season-ending IR. That sucks for him. Cooper Rush will take over, and really it's a good sense for Jerry Jones to see what terrible roster he constructed. Great news for Cowboys fans, though. Jonathan Mingo acquired via a 4th-round pick. I'll tell you that. That is some shrewd businessman right there, A guy who couldn't even cut it on the Panthers gets traded for a 4th-round pick. What are we doing, Jerry? What are we doing here? Anyway, this Cowboys team, I don't know what to make of it. CeeDee Lamb did not look right in that second half. And by right, I mean he didn't look healthy, and he was a little bit banged up. And he also stayed on the ground multiple times after getting a target and was just slow. The fact that he's playing this week, I'm glad, shows some heart. However, the rest of this Cowboys team is just a goose egg in my mind. I don't know what to do with them, Drew. I think just fading them and then moving on is the way I would like to do it. The Eagles' defense has been better. They have been better over the last month or so. They limited the Jaguars for 3.5 quarters last time until Sirianni decided to make the game interesting and gamble a little bit. But on the Eagles side, Only one guy is projected for any bit of ownership. Holy cow!
Something seems wrong. Something seems wrong though. If you check Jalen Hurts ownership, there's something.
It's definitely wrong.
Something's wrong. So I'm gonna save him for the end of our show.
I thought I had it sorted wrong. I was like, man,
yeah,
Saquon Barkley is the only one projected for double-digit ownership. That at least seems right.
That seems right. Yes, I agree.
That seems right. But literally, this game is going to have no ownership outside Saquon. What are you doing with it, Drew?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure yet, to be honest. I have a lot of Dallas at the moment. Just not huge stacks, but like a few sprinkled in stacks, just because of the pricing. So it's nothing too confident in what they're going to do or what they're going to put up. Philadelphia has a pretty good team total. Saquon Barkley, I'm getting jammed quite a bit as well. So it's expensive. Like AJ Brown with Jalen Hurts is expensive. I think that's why I'm not getting a lot of them. And then Saquon Barkley, like if you're going to pay up for another running back, that doesn't work either. So it's really dependent on lineup construction. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do yet with Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'm with you. And when I look at Philadelphia, I keep coming to the fact that they were destroying the Giants, and Barkley had 170 yards. And he basically said to Sirianni, I don't need to go back in. Let the young guys get work, right? So I shouldn't just treat this as a blowout because it's only, 8.5 point spread or 9 point spread or whatever it is.
Pretty big.
Yeah, like it is large. Like I don't want to dismiss it, but like it is a divisional game. It is in Dallas. Cooper Rush is he's not that bad. I mean, like, look, I don't think Dak is that good, and Cooper Rush is not that bad. So, but even in a blowout, like Saquon's probably going to sub out. Snyder, are you in the same boat, really, though, that this game overall is just almost a stay away for the most part, or do you have interest in the Eagles?
I kind of think Jalen Hurts is the guy that could put up like 35-40, and nobody has him. He's like 1 or 2% owned, and the next quarterback's in that 6K range, say put up like 22. I mean, you got a lot of leverage and a lot of upside. I know it's tough to fit him on this slate. It's really tough to fit in that 7,800 Hurts price tag there. I mean, he's got the upside around the goal line. Like at Cincy, he put up 35. He's got some games last year in the mid-30s. I think he's got the slate winning upside. Like for the Millie Maker, I think Jalen Hurts is a great Millie Maker play this week. You can stack him with AJ Brown at literally no ownership as well. I know AJ Brown's kind of not fully healthy after leaving last week, but he's going to give it a go this week. He's got the upside. Just don't know if I can make it work or if I can find the salary, but I do want to have at least some Jalen Hurts in my portfolio though this week. Whether it's pairing him up with Dallas Goedert, who's going to be back at 4,500. I think he makes for an interesting play with the cheap price tag there at the tight end position at basically no ownership as well. So I'm going to try. I think it's going to be probably most likely a Hurts Goedert stack if I do play a Hurts this week. But I think Hurts is the best upside million maker quarterback play on the slate just because you're getting a guy like him who can absolutely just shatter the slate from a QB position wise and outscore the next closest quarterback by 15 potentially if it lines up like that. But Saquon's fine, 8,200, 8,300. I just prefer McCaffrey over him for a little savings, but not much in this game. I don't really like much from the Dallas side. The Eagles are kind of starting to catch their stride, 4 wins in a row now, and that defense is playing a little better like you'd mentioned.
Yeah, very much so. And it's a little bit concerning for the Cowboys side where I'm just like, but I do like your Eagles. Like, look, it's a healthy team total. It's a very healthy team total. Cowboys haven't really proven they can really just consistently stop anyone. There's no team more in the world than the Eagles would like to obliterate the Cowboys too. That is 100% true. If they could stomp on the throat of the Dallas, they will absolutely do it. I do like the fact that, you could have Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown combined under 6-7% because no one really wants to spend up for those two. And AJ Brown last week also felt like he was just under on. Like that's a guy who always has upside no matter what that you want to get exposure to. All right, guys, we have a 10-game slate. So I'm amending the 8% rule. We're going to 10%. Just kind of, account for inflation. We want to do that here. When you have less games, ownership tends to raise up a little bit. So we're going to 10% here. 10% owned or less Millie Maker play of the day. So I'm going to go ahead and just plug this real quick while you guys set your bearings here. Click through Saver, do all that. Code RPS15, 15% off your first purchase here at Run for Your Sports. You get access to a bevy of content. You got NFL, you got NASCAR, you got NBA, NHL, college football, college basketball, and golf, and a whole lot more. And goodness, I can't even get that all out. But we have a slate to get to. Who am I going to start with? Who's going to crack a smile first? It's usually Drew. Yeah, Drew. Drew, you're going to start with you. 10% owned or less, Millie Maker play of the day.
All right, yeah, I had to bump it up to 10%. The Washington Commanders defense. No. Ramondre Stevenson. I think that's the play. I like it as an underdog play too.
I like it because, look, in a sense, it's not exactly like by definition a leverage play, but it's leverage off a very chalky game environment where the Bears defense is going to be chalky. DeAndre Swift's going to be chalky. Look, you can still play Swift to them, but like Stevenson is going to have a massive workload, and you can flip that game easily. I like that one a lot. Snyder, 10% or less own Millie Maker play of the day.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey on this play. I think he's going to put up 30-plus in this game. Leverage against some of those other higher-owned running backs. I'm seeing him at 8.9%, I think, on Sabre, so I think that fits the criteria. But I think what's that?
We'll allow it. If it comes out he's 15% owned or higher, we're gonna bring some metal bats next week.
It could be some Million Maker Roundtable steam is what that would be.
Christian McCaffrey coming off an injury, but rumor has it that Kyle Shanahan, obviously not rumor, he literally comes out and says there's no reason to take off your best players, basically. Like, you want to play your best players out there. That's a glowing endorsement of Christian McCaffrey and hopefully his health. I like the gamble there. I'm very bullish on that. I'm going to go ahead and I really wanted to stick with the Chargers, but it's going to be tough to do that because McConkey and Herbert are both going to be just above that 10% mark. So that means I have to stall a little bit more and scroll down. You know, that's what's terrible.
Well, you're a good host. You're a good host, giving us the spiel, making sure everyone knows that there's like 20 sports that RPS covers. Yes. So, and then Snyder's been posting pictures in the gym. So like we can stall. He's been flexing in the mirror. He hasn't shown up on TikTok with people saying he's been rude. So that's good. That would be actually the worst thing to show up on social media is.
I had to wake up.
Snyder taking a peek.
I had to wake up and open up Twitter and look at Snyder wearing a Ravens gear, celebrating a Ravens win off my Bengals. And I'm just sitting there like disgusted. I'm like, oh my god, this guy's living life right now while I'm just fat and shameless. Yeah, look at that right there. I'm actually okay. As much as I like Herbert, my second favorite quarterback on the entire slate is Brock Purdy. Well, like, if you're going to give it to me at under 10% on a guy with arguably the highest team total on the slate, right? That's not even arguable. Like, they do have the highest team total on the slate. He's got most of his weapons back. Man, I would not be shocked. I'll either click for my main team tomorrow, Purdy or Herbert. And right now, I think those two are by far and away my favorite guys this week. So we got Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, and of course, Ramondre Stevenson as well. Our Millie Maker play of the day, under 10%. Thank you all for watching. We greatly appreciate it. And see y'all next week. And goodbye. Let me find this outro.